Defense. Some people these days think it's boring or don't really care to play it. Everybody loves offense because it's flashy and exciting, but to really win them chips, you have to play some good defense. So without further ado, let me introduce the all-defensive starting five. At point guard, the glove, Gary Payton. During his time playing basketball in the league, he was definitely one of the best defenders, playing mostly for the Seattle Supersonics in his stellar 13-year career. The glove averaged 2 steals per game and has a total of 2,445 for his career, good for 4th all time. No one ever defended the perimeter better than Gary Payton, whose nickname describes his ability to defend perfectly. He's the only point guard to ever win Defensive Player of the Year. Payton stood at 6'4", had phenomenal footwork, quick hands, toughness, and tenacity to rise above all on the perimeter against tons of prolific scorers. He had no problem shutting them down as he mastered the art of steals while almost never allowing a clear shot. He was known for his defensive performances in his career against some of the top scorers of all time. He held his own against the legendary Michael Jordan, who he put to his worst finals performance and slowed him down to just 27 points per game in the 1996 finals. He held him for 5 games, and in all those 5 games he scored under 30 points and held him to 42% from the field. And while those numbers aren't that horrible, this is Michael Jordan who you're talking about, so they are a bit lower than they usually are. I don't know if we'll ever see another point guard with that type of defense. I guess we'll have to see. But speaking of Jordan, that brings us to our 2 guard, Michael Jordan. Now Jordan can definitely be in one of the best defender debates of all time. His defensive tenacity and intensity was like no other, and that allowed him to get 2,514 steals, good for 3rd all time in NBA history. The 6'6" guard took on all offensive threats without ever backing down. He was the only player in NBA history to average over 35 points per game while also averaging more than 3 steals. Although we see him driving to the baseline with his tongue sticking out, him going through the air and slamming it, we gotta remember just how great of a defender he really was. And the man is in the GOAT conversation for a reason. Jordan is one of the best defenders of all time, having led the league in steals 3 times, made 9 all-defensive teams, and won Defensive Player of the Year in 1987-88. Also has the 2nd most blocks of any guard in NBA history. Take any 2 1-2 guards of all time and put them against the glove and MJ, oh my, good luck scoring over 20 points. At small forward though, Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen was the perfect teammate of Michael Jordan and a phenomenal defender in his own right. Although he's often remembered as just Jordan's sidekick, he was the better defender out of them two because he was so versatile. Pippen had 8 all-defensive first-team honors and a status as the only player to record at least 2,300 steals and 900 blocks in his career. Made famous for living inside Magic Johnson's jersey during the 1991 finals, the 6'8" forward had exceptional length, quickness, and intelligence. And when you look at his physical traits, you can see that he's a perfect guy to be a defender. Standing at a muscular 6'8" and a ridiculous 7'3" wingspan, Scottie was that lockdown defender on 2K before 2K was even out. With impressive physical strength to boot that incredibly long length, opposing players had a better chance of getting a floater over Dikembe Mutombo than they did having a chance to cross up Scottie Pippen. Physicality aside, what made Pippen such an impressive defender was his ability to guard quicker guards and larger forwards as effectively as he did wing players. On each of those 6 Chicago Bulls championship teams, Pippen was guarding the opposing team's best player to provide Jordan with enough energy on offense. At power forward, the Worm, Dennis Rodman. Like Pippen, Rodman was one of the most versatile defenders in NBA history, able to guard really any position on the floor. Standing at 6'7" with an absolute 7'4" wingspan, Rodman was an absolute physical specimen, and he had the strength to body up against even the biggest defenders. When you combine the physical characteristics and his intangibles along with his non-stop motor, oh man. His FU attitude enabled him to be labeled as one of the most menacing and all-around best defenders the game has ever known. RODMAN went on to win 2 Defensive Player of the Year honors, a feat that only 8 other players have accomplished. His ability to match up against a big, dominant big man like Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaq, and David Robinson was almost as impressive as his propensity to switch on and control guards like Penny Hardaway, John Stockton, and Michael Jordan. There has never been a more versatile stopper on the defensive side of the floor, so you gotta give it to RODMAN due to his head down approach and his unmatched intensity. Finally at center, Bill Russell. Now we lack some info as steals and blocks weren't recorded when he played, and the era that he played in looked a lot different than in recent years. Russell crushes the field in career defensive win shares and NBA maths defensive points saved. He led the league in DWS in 11 of his 13 years and owns 7 of the 10 highest single season figures ever recorded. So rather than the individual stats, we can conclude that out of his 11 championships he produced, almost entirely they were on the strength of his defense. The best way to describe the full Russell package is a way of a combination of Tim Duncan. Now I ain't talking about offensive post moves, but in that he produced even more consistent team success than Duncan, while showing even greater athletic dominance than Hakeem Olajuwon. And you gotta understand that Russell was a world-class high jumper and track athlete who, even listed at 6'10", he actually might have been taller. And there's never been a defensive player who combined the otherworldly athletic ability, smarts, competitiveness like Russell, who changed the game and produced unmatched team success. If Defensive Player of the Year award had existed back then, he probably would have had 13 of them, one in each year that he played. Take any 5 players of all time and put them against these 5 on defense, oh man, they gonna get shut down, below 90 points. Please give a thumbs up, subscribe by the bell if you're new, appreciate the view, and as always, thank you for watching, man.